respect, bravery, honesty, humility, truth, and wisdom, and love. Before the Europeans came, those prophets that talk about, and we refer to them as the prophets with the 7 fires prophecies. We refer to them, and today we might describe those fires with 1 sentence, or 2 sentences. And we've condensed those prophecies in such a way that they fit on a poster too. Everything fits on a poster. Anyway, the thing is that that those prophecies were big prophecies. They were huge events, and they had a great deal of impact on the way that the people got ready for that early contact time. And some of them actually moved all the way out west, all the way off the coast, all the way, they moved. And so early contact, for some of us, we knew it was not going to go well. And we knew that it would have an impact on everything for many, many years. And that impact is still being felt right up to this day. Why is it important for people to know what we felt and what we believed about the first contact and the colonization and the initial oppressions and the kinds of impressions that Europeans made? Nobody ever asked us before what we thought of them coming here. When the Europeans came, they didn't come here to live by the instructions of the Creator. They had a different plan in mind. And as it worked out, the plan didn't include us. That was the first thing we should try to remember. If you look at the early histories that are written about when the Europeans first came here, they talked a lot about how they could benefit from everything that they found over here. And they didn't say, these were such amazing people. They lived here for thousands upon thousands of years and the water is still clean. They had nothing to say about that. They said, oh, the land here is so clean and natural that we could grow everything we need to feed our people for 1,000,000 years. And then they set about to find a way to destroy it.
Well, from what I know, even though they were, the Europeans were impressive because they had guns and they had gunpowder and they had big harpoons, a lot bigger than what my dad or grandfather would have had. So they had impressive material items, but they weren't, from the stories that we hear as children, the ships that came in from Europe, they weren't very rich. They were not doing well in their old country. Otherwise, why would they want to travel all the way to Canada and experience swamp and mosquitoes? And some were ill, and some were seeking a better fortune. So the Inuit welcomed them. Otherwise, that would have been the end of them if they didn't look after them. They didn't have a home. They didn't know how to build igloos. They didn't know the Arctic survival. So without the help of the Inuit, their hopes and dreams would be very short-lived.
Well, we as Indigenous people here, and there was millions of us, and there was not any part of this soil turned into destruction. That we were connected to all life that was here. And if there's such a place as a Garden of Eden, this was it, you know. And since the contact, there's been like destruction of our trees that used to, huge trees that we used to have that was cut down for the ships that came across later on. Back in the 1700s when they were talking about treaties and the lands, they wanted as many of Europeans learn about our language, not so much about us as to get the lands and the resources from us. And the old people at the time who signed those treaties, they thought because of language barrier or the lack of understanding each other's languages, our people thought we were signing a treaty where we treat each other like sister and brother, that we'll share this land as long as rivers move and grass grows.
The big picture was to wipe out our tradition and our language, and also our family structure. And we know what happened with that was through residential school and different schools where they would try and convert us to only speak English rather than our own language. In our teachings tell us that things are going to happen, and they did come true. And that one teaching about the black robe, that one would come in two different faces. It would come in friendship, but then again at the same time, it would be opposite.
We were like a half-breed, is what they called us. We weren't wanted with the First Nation, and we weren't wanted with the Europeans. We were a forgotten people. And for, 100 years after Louis Riel, before we came back up and getting ourselves known. My grandfather, he did a lot of carvings and he made moccasins, and he picked up a lot of herbs, which I, in turn, make my own salve with herbs now.
So my father would talk about how the little spirit child lived up in heaven with her parents, and her father and her mother lived up there, and her father was the sun and her mother was the moon. And they lived up there, and she would look down on the earth. She would see little animals running around and forests and birds and real children down there, and she was so lonely because she lived up in the sky with her parents. She said to her father one day, "I want to go down and play with those children." And he said, "No, you're a spirit. There's a line between the live children down on earth and the spirits up in heaven. You cannot go down to earth. You're a spirit child." And another day she asked her mother, she said, "I'm so lonely. I want to go and play with the children down there." Her mother said, "No, you can't go. You're a spirit. You live up here with us." And one day both her parents were busy and they were gone somewhere. And she looked down and saw these kids playing, and she thought, "Aha, I'll go down myself." So she started to go down to earth. And as she started to go down, she free fell, and she was scared. And she was falling as fast as she possibly could, and she reached out to grab at anything to stop this fall, and she grabbed a branch as she fell, and she took the branch down with her and smacked down onto earth really, really hard. And she lay there feeling like every bone in her body was broken, and she started to cry. And her tears were very pure because she was a spirit child. And they fell on this dead branch, and the branch put down roots, and it had flowers come up. So she brought flowers to earth. But then she had changed from the spirit world to the human world. She could never go back. She could never see her mother or father again. So always obey your parents, or you might be separated from them forever. And we'd have to hear that, and I would always be crying about the poor little spirit child. And then I would open these pretty moccasins that would have fancy flowers on the toe. But they were always kind of shrouded in tears because of the little spirit child being permanently separated from her parents. And later on, I wondered if perhaps this fear of permanent separation also came from residential school, and the fact my father was in residential school when he was very young. And perhaps the fear of losing his family was also very real for him. I don't know. He talked to us in stories. He never talked to us about actualities. It was hard. He always had a story for everything.
To me, maybe the important thing is to recognize the difference in the value systems and the sort of the mind, or the value systems and how they guide the mind of those people. And when somebody is living to achieve a good life through natural law, following those natural laws, and they meet up with a people or person who is living their life according to manifest destiny, I believe they call it. And those two collided, there was bound to be a difference of perception and perspectives. And I think it's time for us to bring forward our perspective about what we were trying to achieve. Because we eventually, like I think in the past century and a half, we have been invested in a process of survival. And only recently, we began to work towards achieving wellness and health. Bimatsuin again became the destination, the goal of life, instead of just trying to survive.